In a galaxy far from Earth, on a small green planet called Vespera, there lived a young alien girl named Lyra. She had bright purple skin and large, sparkling eyes that could see in the dark. Lyra was not just any ordinary girl, she had special powers. She could control the plants around her, making them grow and bloom with just a thought. But Lyra's life was not easy. She lived in fear of a cruel warlord named Kale. Kale ruled Vespera with an iron fist. He was powerful and ruthless, and he wanted to use Lyra's abilities for his own gain. One day, his soldiers captured her during a raid. They took her to a dark fortress where Kale planned to make her his servant. The fortress was cold and gloomy, filled with the cries of others who had also been taken. Lyra felt scared and alone. She missed her home and her friends. She remembered the warm sun shining down on her as she played in the fields, surrounded by colorful flowers. Now she was trapped in a place that felt like a nightmare. As the days passed, she lost hope of ever escaping. One evening, while sitting in her small, dark cell, an idea sparked in Lyra's mind. She remembered the stories her grandmother told her about the brave humans from a distant planet called Earth. They were known for their courage and kindness. If she could somehow send a message to them, maybe they would come to help her. With a new sense of purpose, she began to gather her strength. Lyra focused her mind and reached out with her powers. She used her ability to manipulate energy, creating a small device from the metal scraps around her. It was a simple but effective communicator. She worked quietly, making sure the guards did not hear her. When the device was ready, she felt a mix of fear and hope. Taking a deep breath, she activated the communicator. "Please, someone hear me?" she cried into it. "I need help! My name is Lyra, and I am trapped on Vespera. The warlord Kale has taken me, and he plans to use me for evil. I beg you, send someone to rescue me." The message traveled through the stars, searching for someone who could hear her call. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Ethan Graves was going about his day. He was a soldier with many battles behind him. He had seen terrible things and lost many friends. He felt a heavy weight on his heart, but he had not lost his sense of duty. He believed in protecting those who could not protect themselves. One quiet evening, while monitoring the communications from space, Ethan's equipment picked up a strange signal. He leaned closer, his interest piqued. As he listened, his heart raced. The voice was clear, filled with fear and desperation. It was a girl, calling for help from an alien planet. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He knew he had to act. "We can't ignore this," he said to his team. "This girl needs us." He gathered a small group of brave soldiers who trusted him and shared his vision. They all understood the risks, but they were ready to fight for someone who needed saving. As they prepared for their journey, Ethan felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. He knew the mission would be dangerous. They would be traveling into unknown territory, facing a powerful warlord. But the thought of the young girl trapped in fear pushed him forward. He was determined to show that humanity could still be a force for good in the universe. "Let's get ready," Ethan said to his team. "We have a long journey ahead, and we must be ready for anything." With a fierce sense of purpose, they gathered their gear and prepared for the adventure that lay ahead. As their ship powered up and launched into the starry sky, Ethan looked out at the vastness of space. He felt a sense of hope rising within him. They were going to save Lyra, and in doing so, perhaps find a piece of themselves they thought they had lost forever. As the spaceship soared through the starry sky, Captain Ethan Graves stood at the front, staring at the vastness of space. His heart raced with excitement and worry. They were heading to Vespera to rescue Lyra, the alien girl who had called for help. He knew the journey would be dangerous, but he believed they could make a difference. Ethan turned to his team, who were busy checking their gear. There were 4 of them: Sergeant Mia, a skilled fighter with quick reflexes, Corporal Jake, a tech genius who could fix anything, and Private Lily, a sharpshooter who never missed her target. Each member brought their own strengths to the mission, and Ethan felt lucky to have them by his side. "Listen up, everyone!" Ethan called, gathering their attention. "We're on a mission to save a girl named Lyra. She is in danger from a warlord named Kale. We need to be careful and ready for anything. This will not be easy, but I believe in each one of you." Mia nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "We've trained for tough missions before." "We can do this!" Jake was busy typing on his tablet. "I'm working on a plan to disable the security systems at the fortress. If we can get past the guards, we can reach Lyra quickly." Lily cleaned her rifle, looking serious. "I'll cover you all." Just point me in the right direction, and I'll take care of the rest." Ethan felt a surge of pride for his team. They were not just soldiers, they were friends who had each other's backs. As they continued their preparations, Ethan shared his thoughts on what they might face. "The fortress will be heavily guarded," he explained. "Kale is powerful, and he won't let us take Lyra without a fight. We need to work together and stay focused." The team nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. They were ready to fight for Lyra and to show that humanity could be strong allies in the galaxy. After several hours of preparation, the ship finally entered Vespera's atmosphere. The sky was a deep shade of green, and the landscape below was filled with strange plants and mountains. As they approached the fortress, the team could see the dark stone walls rising high, surrounded by a thick forest. "All right, this is it," Ethan said, his voice steady. "Stay sharp and follow my lead. We'll land just outside the fortress and move in quietly. Remember, our goal is to rescue Lyra and get out as fast as we can." The team nodded, each of them feeling the weight of the mission on their shoulders. As they landed, they gathered their weapons and gear, ensuring everything was ready. Ethan led the way, using the map Jake had created to navigate through the forest towards the fortress. The trees were thick, and shadows danced around them as they moved cautiously. Every sound made them tense, but they stayed alert. Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. He was determined to bring Lyra home safely. As they reached the edge of the fortress, they crouched behind a large rock to assess the situation. Guards patrolled the area, and heavy security cameras scanned the entrance. Ethan could feel the tension in the air. "Jake, can you disable those cameras?" Ethan whispered. Jake nodded, already working on his tablet. "Give me a moment. I can create a loop that will make it look like everything is normal." Ethan and the others waited anxiously. Finally, Jake looked up with a grin. "It's done!" "They won't see us coming." "Great job," Mia said, readying her weapon. With a deep breath, Ethan gave the signal, and they moved swiftly toward the entrance. As they crept inside, the darkness surrounded them. They had to stay quiet and focused. Each step brought them closer to Lyra, and Ethan felt a renewed sense of hope. Together, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They would fight for Lyra and show that even in the darkest times, courage and friendship could light the way. The battle was just beginning. Inside the dark fortress of Kyle, the air felt thick and heavy. Captain Ethan Graves and his team moved quietly through the narrow hallways, their hearts racing with anticipation. The walls were cold and made of rough stone, and flickering lights cast eerie shadows that danced around them. Every corner could hide a guard, and they had to be ready for anything. "Stay close," Ethan whispered, keeping his voice low. He led the way, his eyes scanning for any signs of danger. Mia walked beside him, her hand gripping her weapon tightly, while Jake and Lily followed closely behind, ready to react at a moment's notice. As they crept deeper into the fortress, they reached a large door marked with strange symbols. Ethan looked at Jake, who quickly pulled out his tablet. "Let me see if I can unlock it," he said. He tapped furiously on the screen, sweat beading on his forehead. Suddenly, they heard footsteps approaching. Ethan's heart raced as he motioned for everyone to hide behind a nearby wall. They pressed against the cold stone, holding their breath. The footsteps grew louder, and a guard passed by, chatting with another soldier. "They say the girl has special powers," the guard laughed. "Kale plans to use her to control the entire planet." Ethan clenched his fists, anger rising within him. "Not if we can help it," he thought. Once the guards were out of sight, Jake breathed a sigh of relief. "I've got it!" "The door is unlocked." Ethan nodded, pushing the door open slowly. It creaked, and they winced at the sound. Inside, the room was filled with strange machines and glowing crystals. At the center was a large glass cage, and inside it, Lyra stood, looking scared but hopeful. "Lyra!" Ethan called softly, stepping into the room. She turned, her big eyes lighting up when she saw them. "Help me!" she cried, her voice filled with relief. Ethan rushed to the cage, inspecting it for a way to open it. "Don't worry, we're here to save you," he said. "I promise." As he looked around, he noticed a control panel next to the cage. Jake quickly joined him, typing commands into his tablet. "If I can just override the system, I can open the cage," Jake said, focused on the task. Mia stood guard, her eyes darting around the room for any signs of danger. Just then, alarms blared throughout the fortress, red lights flashing in warning. "We've been spotted!" she shouted, readying her weapon. Ethan felt a rush of panic. "We need to hurry," he urged, looking back at Jake. "Can you do it?" "Almost there!" Jake replied, sweat dripping down his face as he worked faster. As the alarms continued to blare, Ethan and Mia prepared for a fight. The heavy door burst open and several guards rushed in, weapons drawn. "Stop right there!" one of them yelled. Without hesitation, Mia fired her weapon, taking down the nearest guard. The sound echoed through the room and chaos erupted. Ethan took cover, pulling Lyra down beside him as they ducked behind the control panel. "Keep going, Jake!" Ethan shouted, adrenaline pumping through his veins. Jake focused harder, typing frantically. "Just a few more seconds!" Lily took position by the entrance, shooting at the guards who tried to storm in. Her aim was precise, and she kept them at bay, but more guards were coming. "Hurry, guys! We need to get out of here!" she shouted. Finally, with a loud beep, the cage door swung open. Lyra stepped out, her eyes wide with gratitude. "Thank you," she said, looking at Ethan and the others. "Let's go!" Ethan shouted, grabbing her hand. They quickly moved toward the exit, dodging bullets and shouting guards. Mia and Lily provided cover fire as they made their way through the chaos. "We can't go back the way we came," Mia warned. "There are too many guards." Ethan glanced around, searching for another way out. "This way!" he yelled, leading them down a side corridor. They sprinted, hearts racing, knowing they had to escape before it was too late. With Lyra safe beside them, Ethan felt a surge of hope. They would fight together to make it out of this dark place. The battle was far from over, but they were determined to succeed. As Ethan, Mia, Jake, Lily, and Lyra raced through the dark corridors of the fortress, the sound of footsteps echoed behind them. The alarms blared louder, and bright red lights flashed above, making the escape feel even more urgent. They had to find a way out quickly. "Where do we go now?" Lyra asked, her voice shaking. She looked frightened but determined. Ethan felt a surge of protectiveness for her. He wanted to keep her safe. "Just follow me," Ethan replied, leading the group down another narrow passageway. "We need to find the exit before more guards arrive." As they turned a corner, they found a small room filled with strange machines and tools. Ethan quickly scanned the room, looking for anything that could help them. On one wall, he noticed a large window that overlooked the forest outside. "There! That window might lead us to safety," he said. Mia nodded, already moving toward it. "I can break it open," she said confidently. She pulled out a heavy tool and smashed it against the glass. The window shattered, sending shards of glass flying. "Good job!" Ethan encouraged, his heart racing. "Let's go!" One by one, they climbed through the broken window and jumped down to the soft ground below. They landed safely in the bushes, and for a moment they caught their breath, feeling the cool night air on their skin. As they hid behind the bushes, Ethan looked at Lyra. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. She nodded, though her eyes were wide with fear. "I'm just glad you found me. I thought I was lost forever." Ethan smiled, feeling a bond forming between them. "You're not lost anymore. We'll get you home." Lily watched the forest, her eyes scanning for any signs of danger. "We need to keep moving. The guards will be looking for us," she reminded them. Ethan nodded, taking charge. "Let's head towards those trees. We can use them for cover." They all agreed, moving quietly through the forest, staying close together. As they walked, Lyra looked at the humans around her. She felt a warmth in her heart. They had risked their lives to save her, and she wanted to show them her gratitude. "Thank you for saving me," she said, her voice soft but full of emotion. "You are my heroes." Mia smiled. "We're not just heroes. We're friends now. Friends help each other." Lyra smiled back, feeling a sense of belonging for the first time. She had been alone for so long, and now she had people who cared about her. It filled her with hope. As they continued through the forest, Ethan felt a sense of teamwork growing among them. They were not just a group of soldiers. They had become a family. Each person had their own role, and together they made a strong team. Suddenly, they heard rustling in the bushes nearby. The group tensed, preparing for an attack. "Get ready!" Ethan whispered, raising his weapon. But to their surprise, a small animal emerged from the bushes. It was a creature with soft fur and bright eyes. Lyra gasped, stepping forward. "It's a Lumerian! They're gentle beings," she said, her eyes shining with joy. The Lumerian approached them cautiously, sniffing the air. Lyra knelt down, extending her hand. "It's okay. I won't hurt you," she said softly. The creature seemed to understand and came closer, nuzzling against her hand. Lyra laughed, her fear melting away. In that moment, she realized that not everything in this world was dangerous. There could be beauty and kindness, too. Ethan watched the scene, feeling warmth in his heart. "See? You're not alone, Lyra. You have us. And you have this little friend, too," he said, smiling. As they continued on their journey, Lyra felt stronger. With Ethan, Mia, Jake, and Lily by her side, she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They had become more than just allies. They had become friends. With renewed determination, the group moved deeper into the forest, their bond growing stronger with every step. They would fight together, protect each other, and find a way to overcome the challenges ahead. Together, they were unstoppable. The moon hung high in the sky as Ethan, Mia, Jake, Lily, and Lyra stood at the edge of the forest. Ahead of them loomed the fortress of Kyle, dark and imposing. They could see guards patrolling the walls and hear the distant sounds of machinery. It was time for the final showdown. "We have to be smart about this," Ethan said, looking at each of his friends. "We can't just rush in. We need a plan." Mia nodded. "We can create a distraction. While the guards are busy, the rest of us can sneak in and rescue any other prisoners." Lyra looked nervous. "What if they capture us again?" she asked, her eyes wide with fear. Ethan knelt beside her. "We won't let that happen. We're all in this together, and I promise to protect you," he said firmly. His words gave her strength. Jake chimed in. "I can hack into their security systems again. If I can create a blackout in the fortress, it will give us a chance to move without being seen." "Great idea," Lily exclaimed. "Let's do this!" The group split into two teams. Mia and Lily would create the distraction while Ethan, Jake, and Lyra sneaked inside. They agreed to meet at the central control room, where they could find the main computer to help free the prisoners. Mia and Lily moved towards the main entrance, their hearts pounding. They knew this was a dangerous mission, but they were determined to make it work. As they approached, they spotted several guards standing near the entrance. "Now or never," Mia whispered. With a quick nod, Lily threw a rock into the distance. The sound echoed in the night, causing the guards to turn their heads in confusion. "What was that?" one of them asked, moving toward the sound. Mia seized the opportunity. "Now!" she shouted, charging in and taking the guards by surprise. Lily followed close behind, using her skills to disarm one of the guards. "Quick! Grab their weapons!" Mia yelled, and they quickly took the guards' guns. The two friends worked together, fighting fiercely. They knew they had to create enough chaos to allow Ethan and the others to sneak inside. Meanwhile, Ethan, Jake, and Lyra moved stealthily through the shadows, using the cover of night to their advantage. Ethan led the way, keeping his eyes peeled for any guards. "There's the entrance," Jake pointed ahead, spotting a door leading into the fortress. They quickly slipped inside, finding themselves in a dimly lit hallway. As they advanced, Jake pulled out his tablet. "Let me see if I can access the security system," he said, typing furiously. "I'll create the blackout now." Suddenly, alarms began to blare again, echoing through the fortress. "What's happening?" Ethan asked, glancing back at Lyra. "Jake must be working his magic," Lyra said, a hint of excitement in her voice. Jake grinned. "Got it! The power is out in this section of the fortress. Let's move!" They hurried down the dark hallway, their footsteps silent on the cold floor. Finally, they reached the central control room. Ethan pushed the door open and they stepped inside. The room was filled with screens and buttons, all glowing faintly in the darkness. "Now what?" Lyra asked, looking around nervously. Ethan quickly scanned the screens. "We need to find the controls for the prison cells. If we can unlock them, we can free the others." Jake jumped to a nearby terminal and began typing again. "I'm on it," he said, working quickly to hack into the system. As Jake focused on his task, Ethan stood guard, watching the door for any signs of trouble. The tension in the air was thick, and Lyra felt her heart racing. "Almost there," Jake muttered, his fingers flying over the keys. Just as he completed the final command, the screens flashed, and a loud beep filled the room. "Cells are unlocked! Let's get everyone out!" Ethan shouted. But just then the door burst open. Kale himself entered, his eyes cold and fierce. "You think you can just walk in here and take what's mine?" he snarled, his voice echoing in the room. Ethan stepped forward, his weapon raised. "We're not leaving without the prisoners!" A fierce battle broke out. Ethan and his friends fought bravely against Kale and his guards. The sound of gunfire filled the air as they struggled for control. With teamwork and determination, they pushed back against the enemy. Lyra, seeing the chaos, felt a rush of courage. She fought alongside her new friends, her heart pounding with the thrill of battle. Together they fought fiercely, their friendship shining brighter than ever. Finally, with one final push, they defeated Kale. The villain fell to the ground, defeated and powerless. Ethan looked around, breathing heavily. "We did it!" They quickly gathered the prisoners, leading them to safety outside the fortress. As they stepped into the moonlight, they felt a wave of relief wash over them. They had faced danger together and come out victorious. Ethan turned to Lyra, a smile spreading across his face. "You're free now, Lyra. We all are." Lyra beamed, her heart filled with gratitude. "Thank you, everyone. I couldn't have done this without you." Together, they looked back at the fortress, knowing they had changed the fate of many. They had not only fought for freedom, but had found friendship in the process. And in that moment, under the stars, they knew they would always stand together, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.